My mother was actually very funny because she would say, "You look at the cover of Playboy magazine. Let me just tell you the reason that people are looking at these things, understand what they were developed for, the perpetuation of the human species." She was a very practical woman that way. Kamala Harris. I have it on good authority. This button's not working, dude. You want to hit it? Oh, wait, there we go.
From atop the battlements of Castle Curmudgeon, where on this 8th of June we wish everyone a happy World Oceans Day, a happy World Brain Tumor Day, which seems like a weird thing to have a day for, but whatever, and to our friends on Pitcairn Island, a very happy Bounty Day. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America and all ships at sea. Welcome to the Blast Radius. Glad to have you with us. Here is your golden age of Western civilization news roundup for the week ending 6 June 2025, or if you prefer, D-Day plus 29,587. Dateline Boise, Monday 2 June. In this week's Pride Month update, there is no pride in Boise. Rainbow Casey has struck out. Or should we say Mighty Gacy? I don't know, we're still kicking that one around. Hell with it, probably doesn't matter. So the folks at Boise Pride, they had some pretty ambitious plans for this year's extravaganza of gay, or extravaganza, if you will, and they were going to kick it off with something called the Pride Season Kickoff, which I guess stands to reason, but do you notice how they try to shift the goalposts just a few inches each time? Not Pride Month, they say, but Pride Season, because let's face it, a month just isn't long enough. Straight people need more time than that to fully display, well, to live out, really, just how much they love to celebrate other people's weird, freaky sex lives. At least that's what the guys at Boise Pride Parade thought when they planned this big Pride Season kickoff shindig, and they booked the venue and all the musical acts and priced the tickets at a very reasonable $25 general admission, 60 bucks for the full VIP experience. What extra perks do you get with the VIP ticket? Don't think I want to know, but I'm sure it's very gay indeed. Here, let's hear it from Boise Pride themselves, quoting here from the press release that they put out back in the optimistic, heady days in the middle of last month. Quote, "Our Pride Season kickoff is more than just an event. It's a joyful statement of love, resilience, and belonging. Come together with friends, family, and allies as we honor the past, celebrate the present, and look forward to the future of LGBTQ plus pride in our community. Let's kick off Pride Season together in the biggest, boldest, most beautiful way possible. End quote. Now, the standard narrative around the decline and fall of Pride Month has been that companies are a bit more reticent than they used to be to sponsor these events, and there's a fear of supposed reprisals or retribution from the notoriously homophobic Donald Trump administration. But Boise Pride, to their credit, they are not making either of those claims. It sounds like the sponsorships were pretty much in line with what they expected, and they don't seem to have any concerns about any right-wing backlash. And according to them, and here's the crucial part, the online enthusiasm for this event was through the roof on social media, so they thought it would be a fairly simple matter, selling all of the tickets. But then they put the tickets on sale, and nobody bought them. Like, literally nobody. Which, for the more conspiratorially minded among you, might lead you to conclude, so the internet was really excited about it, but actual people in the real world, not so much? It might lead one to suspect that a significant portion of online woke activism comes from AstroTurf bot farms, which is a hell of a damn shame because I was really looking forward to seeing those performances from Cody Bellew, Ariana and the Rose, and Corvette Collective. Those are like 3 of my all-time favorite gay bands. At least I assume they're gay bands, but that's not important now. The important thing is there won't be any music emanating from this year's Boise Pride season, except the chirping of the gay crickets. Dateline London, Tuesday, 3 June. Well, if you needed any more convincing that the United Kingdom really does have Islamic blasphemy laws now, the proof smacked you directly in the face earlier this week with the news that Hamit Koskun, a Turkish-born Armenian Kurdish atheist and naturalized British subject, did you get all that? Because I'm not repeating it, has been convicted of an actual criminal offense for burning a Quran during a protest outside the Turkish consulate in February. In the post-Orwellian nightmare hellscape that 21st century British criminal justice has become, this is what they call a religiously aggravated public order offense. And yeah, when your criminal code contains phrases like that, it's safe to say you've blown right past Orwellian straight to post-Orwellian. Orwell just wasn't all that imaginative. Now, we know the whole concept of hate crimes is stupid and intellectually indefensible on its face to begin with, and especially so in murder cases because it makes the victim's life have varying degrees of value according to the supposed thoughts that are inside the head of the criminal. But this is a whole newer and, quite frankly, stupider category of hate crime because in this case, it requires the judge to conclude that Mr. Koskun set the Quran alight not because he hates Islam, but because he specifically hates Muslims. Yes, apparently this is a real distinction in British law. If you burn a Quran because you hate Islam, that's totally cool. But if you burn it because you hate the followers of Islam, that's a hate crime, buddy. And the best part is, none of this had anything to do with Britain or the British. It was, in fact, a protest against the policies of the Turkish government. And judging by the fact that this guy is an Armenian Kurdish atheist, we can probably fairly safely assume what his set of grievances and motivations are. Now, was anyone actually harmed during these events in question? Well, yes, but it was Mr. Koskun himself, as you might reasonably expect, since Muslims don't have a very strong track record of acting like civilized people when Qurans start getting set alight. So he burns the Quran, some dude immediately tries to stab him to death, because of course he does, and they both get arrested. Now, will the attempted murderer receive any jail time? Well, of course he won't, because he was only charged with simple assault. He will, in all likelihood, only receive a fine, and it will, in all likelihood, be less than the 336-pound fine that Mr. Koskun was assessed. And will it occur to anyone in the British government that their laws and their selective enforcement thereof create a lot of implicit moral equivalences that Western liberal democracies would generally do well to avoid? Will anyone in Whitehall have a light bulb epiphany moment where they realize, maybe we probably ought not to make destroying a book an equivalent offense to trying to kill another man with a knife? No, it will not. Dateline Atlanta, Wednesday, 4 June. CNN's long inexorable slide into irrelevance continues apace, as the latest Nielsen ratings indicate. The notorious discredited fake news sludge factory was only able to average 374,000 total viewers in prime time last week, and approximately 350,000 of those were homeless drunks in empty bus terminals. And bear in mind, this is after they already did quite a bit of house cleaning over the last year and a half or so. They got rid of some of the guys who were seen as the most hate-filled partisan bomb throwers, your Jim Acostas and your Brian Stelters and so on. Brian Stelter, whom they've recently brought back as a part-time contributor, so maybe they don't care about those ratings all that much after all. The point being, they pulled these guys out of their nightly primetime slots, replaced them with a succession of scowling, square-jawed females, which is weird, but it's beside the point right now. But it had to have been done with a mind to arresting this slide in the ratings that has been ongoing for quite some time now, and it even was ongoing during a presidential election year involving Donald Trump, which is a real achievement. It should be impossible for those ratings to go down in a year like that, but they went down anyway, and they continue to go down. And you want to know why? Because if you're looking for a fitting metaphor, we are already in rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic territory, or changing the color of the lipstick you're putting on the pig, which is to say, it doesn't matter what kind of damage control strategies you try to put in place, because CNN is a ruined brand. Whatever public trust and consumer loyalty the brand used to enjoy, it's well and truly gone now. It's been over a decade now since CNN decided to abandon all pretense toward objectivity and journalistic rigor and go down the road of being a transcription service for the Democrat Party and the federal administrative state, while wearing the brand identity of a formerly kind of semi-reputable news organization as a hollowed-out skin suit. And when you do that with your brand, you can't ever undo it. There is no world where you can just realize your mistake, throw the car in reverse, and return your brand to being what it once was. Even if you did change your ways, even if you did start doing honest, rigorous journalism, it wouldn't matter, because nobody would watch anyway. In a different sector of the entertainment industry, and make no mistake, CNN is an entertainment product, this is the same sort of regrettable lesson currently being learned by Disney Marvel and Disney Star Wars. Once in a while, they each manage to turn out something that isn't total unwatchable trash, and it doesn't matter because nobody watches, because those are ruined brands. When I've watched your last 10 products in a row, and they were all woke identitarian dog shit, why the hell would I watch number 11? Spoiler alert, I wouldn't. And here's what these people don't understand. The people who co-opt these brands and turn them into hobby horses for the message. Brand credibility is not a limitless reservoir that magically replenishes itself each time you draw from it. It's a lot more like a bank account, really. If you spend from your reserves and you don't put anything back in, eventually your balance is 374,000 primetime viewers. So well done, CNN. Don't you ever change. Dateline Washington, Thursday, 5 June. The Trump administration officially canceled the notorious $8 billion electric car charger construction scheme, which, as you already know fairly well if you've been watching this program for any length of time, was supposed to build a magnificent, gleaming network of brand new electric car chargers from sea to shining sea. And in the actual event, they built 8. So the next time someone comes up on you and tries to say Mayor Pete Buttigieg isn't a comically incompetent douchebag who's got less business in the president's cabinet than the average homeless man who lives under your local freeway overpass, I want you to throw the receipts right in that man's face, because it takes visionary leadership to build 8 electric vehicle charging stations in 4 years for $8 billion. And we know he already had his hands full as it was, what with fixing all of our racist roads and staying home for 6 weeks so he could chest feed the twins. In fact, Mayor Pete was such a great transportation secretary, we passed a $1.2 goddamn trillion infrastructure bill, and those 8 goddamn electric car chargers are just about all we've got to goddamn show for it. And if that doesn't scream effective governance, then by God, I don't know what the hell does. And just so nobody is unclear on the number of these stupid things they were supposed to build and didn't, it was supposed to be around 6,000. And we got 8. So, and would I be remotely surprised if at least 4 of those were broken already? I would not. And it took a gigantic set of testicles, or a crippling lack of self-awareness, one or the other, for Mayor Pete to go on Face the Nation in September of 2023, many months after the passage of the so-called infrastructure bill, and casually, almost matter-of-factly remarked that he had a spot of trouble finding charging stations for his electric car on his recent family road trip. And did the intrepid journalist Margaret Brennan immediately challenge him on the absurdity of that statement, since he runs the department that is supposed to be building the thing he is complaining about there not being enough of? Nope. Of course she didn't. Don't be silly. She just smiled and nodded politely and pivoted right back to talking about the really important things, like how difficult it is being the first gay presidential cabinet secretary and how many man-hours are involved in determining which roads are racist and which roads are non-racist, or how embarrassing it was when they made him go to East Palestine and cosplay as Bob the Builder, or Alfred E. Newman the Builder, I guess would be a more fitting appellation, but has a grown man ever looked more awkward than Secretary Mayor Pete looked on that day? Perhaps, but it sure as hell was not in front of the whole national media, I will tell you that. And if there's any lesson we can take away from the murderer's row of legendary all-stars that was the Joe Biden cabinet, it's that you can never, ever go wrong when you hire people for very important jobs on the basis of their immutable personal characteristics and pay absolutely no attention to whether they are capable of doing the job that you're hiring them for. And while the vice president isn't really technically a cabinet member, I think we can throw the California cackler into that group too, because remember when Joe all of a sudden started pledging to have a black woman running mate just out of the blue, immediately after he got the Jim Clyburn endorsement and won South Carolina because of it, which I'm sure that was all just a big coincidence. Does anybody else get the feeling he didn't really think that thing through when he agreed to it? Because they wind up handing him a list of 3 names. 2 of them are Kamala Harris and Karen Bass. Meanwhile, Mayor Pete was putting ointment on his chafed nipples and dreaming of electric car chargers. Dateline Colville-sur-Mer, Normandy, Friday, 6 June. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth joined some of the very few remaining survivors to mark the 81st anniversary of Operation Overlord on Friday, when, in the largest and most audacious invasion in the history of human conflict, an Anglo-American-Canadian armada clawed its way onto the beaches of occupied France and began the work of liberating continental Europe from the boot heel of Nazi tyranny. But, as Secretary Hegseth was quick to point out, and I'm glad he did this, it wasn't just an Anglo-American-Canadian armada. In fact, it took a lot of support of various kinds from the various allied nations just for conveying the infantry force from southeast England to northwest France and then trying to provide them artillery support as they tried to gain a foothold on the various beaches. And the secretary read out the name of each and every one of them, stating, quote, "The invasion would include brave troops from the U.S., Great Britain, Canada, France, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Belgium, Norway, Greece, and Holland. And on the ground, the French resistance covertly aided the effort," end quote. And it's nice, I think, that our friends on the left still grudgingly allow us to take a one-day break from celebrating Pride Month to commemorate the events of D-Day, particularly in light of the very offensive, very intolerable fact that the invading force on that day was overwhelmingly white. It didn't include any women or gays or transgenders or paraplegics or neurodivergent social anxiety sufferers with 2 mommies, or really any of the identity groups that we are still allowed to venerate in polite company. So it's a great show of magnanimity and ecumenicalism on the part of our cultural overlords that they still allow us to celebrate something so problematic. And during the very self-same month when we technically are only allowed to celebrate freaky gay sex stuff. So maybe Rodney King was right, and we really can all get along. Oh wait, I guess it's probably not the best time for a Rodney King reference, is it? Since we've got a new LA riot popping off right now as we speak. That was a bit of a faux pas on the part of your correspondent, wasn't it? But back to the subject at hand. We are all accustomed to having grown up in a world where the D-Day landings were a smashing success, and Europe was successfully liberated, and the war was at an end in under 10 months, but we shouldn't ever forget that it was a very closely run thing on the day, and for many days afterward, and success was by no means assured, and General Dwight Eisenhower himself drafted a statement that was to be read along with his resignation as Supreme Commander Allied Expeditionary Force in the event of the invasion being repelled and our boys being thrown back into the sea, and it read in part, quote, "Our landings in the Cherbourg Havre area have failed to gain a satisfactory foothold, and I have withdrawn the troops. My decision to attack at this time and place was based upon the best information available. The troops, the Air Force, and the Navy did all that bravery and devotion to duty could do. If any blame or fault attaches to the attempt, it is mine alone." End quote. And what do professional accountability and strength of character look like? Well, they look just like that. And our current day leaders, civilian and military alike, they would do well to take notes. And with that, here endeth the roundup, and I hand it off to my distinguished colleague, your illustrious co-host, the handsome hominid himself, the one and only Mr. Caucasian Sasquatch.
Tactical nuke incoming!
See, what I'm trying to figure out is what did all the gay crickets sound like? Chirrip, chirrip. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Blast Radius. Tonight we have riots, we have mayhem, we have actual mischief and action. We've got a handful of other stories. We've got a few other things we're going to discuss. At some point in time, I'm going to lose my cookies, and it'll all go famously as long as you give us money. Wait, no, I mean, as long as you stick around. That's what it takes. What's up, Cap? What's going on?
But if you also want to give us money, we ain't going to complain.
That's true. I will vindicate your name.
Pretty sure there's a button down there somewhere if you're so overwhelmingly entertained that you want to lighten your wallet a little bit.
More power to you.
More power to you, indeed. We got memberships, we got T-shirts, we got pocket watches, we got all kinds of shit here. Yeah, we've got LA riots, we've got the big inevitable breakup between Trump and Musk, which we all knew was going to come. We knew there would be some big blow up of a falling out at the end of it. We just didn't know when it would happen or how severe it would be. And now we have the answers to both of those questions, I think.
Yeah,
it was pretty severe for a day and a half, and I think Elon Musk really shouldn't use the internet when he's angry.
I just realized that truck had a flat tire and is coming out of a cloud of smoking cops, but we'll get back to that in a moment. We knew at the beginning of this that Musk's involvement in this whole process was temporary. You can't ask the one of the richest men on earth just to put everything aside forever just to handle some local stuff, I guess you could call it. And frankly, I mean, it was inevitable. We all knew it was going to happen eventually. Why not create a WWE moment out of it?
Yeah, and the rules say that you're allowed to serve as a special government employee for 130 days, and that's what we got out of him. And I don't think anybody can argue the fact that he did some very great, very important, very valuable work, but I think he still, unfortunately, has a rather reductive, rather childlike understanding of how federal spending actually works. And so he's gotten offended about the big, beautiful bill, and I think in a way that I think pretty much proceeds from that ignorance. I think he imagined it in his mind that, well, me and the Doge boys have found this number of billions of dollars in wasteful spending and corruption and fraud. So therefore, next year's federal budget should be that number of billions of dollars less. And yes, in a perfect, idealistically pure world, that would be the way federal spending works. Unfortunately, we don't live in that world, and that's not how federal spending works. And I think that's where the disconnect ultimately is happening. And I think also he got really, really pissed off that his buddy who got nominated to NASA got his nomination pulled. I don't know why he got the nomination in the first place, but that's a complicating factor, I think.
Okay. Is it possible that all of the frou for all that's going on is essentially a hot
A
take?
work?
It's a work, and that ultimately what's taking place is the separation of the Trump administration from Elon Musk. Whether it's their decision or Musk's decision to do so, this would be a fairly clean position to make a break on.
Yeah, there was bound to be a parting of the ways. Although they seem to have had a really good and productive working relationship for the most part during the time that he was in that post, which I think is a good thing. But I would very much like to see Doge continue to be a thing, because I think I come on, for decades I've been saying we need a thing like Doge. Now that we have a thing like Doge and Republicans are running the Congress, people who claim to be fiscal conservatives who care about profligate federal spending, but you know how much I believe them on that. But if they really cared as much as they say they do, this would be a great opportunity to enshrine that department and make it official through legislation and give them a specific remit. Because the biggest problem with this whole thing, the way they've been doing it for the last 130 or so days, is I can understand why there were hurt feelings and ruffled feathers inside these departments when these Doge boys just showed up one day and said, "Let me see all your shit." It's not difficult to see why that would cause certain amounts of resentment. It shouldn't make their remit any different, because sometimes you have to tolerate hurt feelings in order to. You can't let people do internal reviews of their own departments. You just you wind up with debt numbers like we have today when you let that happen. You wind up with the need for Doge to exist and identify all those hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars of profligate spending, because you can't trust people to take a hard, critical look at their own departments. You have to have somebody on the outside to come in and do that. Somebody who is actually empowered to make decisions regarding that department, and so on. Rand Paul could head up the new and improved Doge, says Kissy May.
Ooh, don't threaten.
And he would be the man for it. Rand Paul is pretty worthless as a senator, but I respect the fact that he never met a federal dollar that he wanted to spend. I think we need to have guys like that. I think there should be more than one guy like that.
True. I agree 100%. And of course, that being said,
give me the money. Give me the money, okay?
Indeed, that's a fact.
Yes, that's where we're at in life. Okay, so Trump and Musk have split. It's a fairly clean one. Trump has eliminated a whole huge, enormous amount of funding that would have gone directly to not only the top two manufacturers, but also to Tesla.
And are there a lot of things? Are there a lot of things wrong with the big beautiful bill? Of course there are. But if Trump and Doge had never done their work, it would be a much, much worse bill than it is. And it's a shame that he can't let himself enjoy that achievement, because it is an achievement.
I mean, I haven't even really had a chance to get into what the bill does. I know that there's a mountainous mountain of cut things that are just duplicate things that have been eliminated and all that kind of stuff. And I'm all for that sort of stuff. But I wonder what's the other, 972 pages. It's my curiosity.
And that's always the problem with these big, huge, gigantic spending bills. Right. Because they become so big and so unwieldy that it becomes way too easy to just sneak in your little pet projects that you want to use to enrich, such and such constituent or such and such family member. And we really need to tamp down on that. I know there's a lot of Republicans saying right now, we're just going to do that this one time with the big beautiful bill, and then we'll develop better legislative discipline. And You know, I don't care if these guys have to work long hours every day and take fewer vacations. I think spending bills should be smaller and more targeted. I think every spending bill should be able to permit of a 2 or 3 sentence description. I don't think that's an unreasonable standard. Do you?
Sort of. I mean, you're talking about a government that transports multiple billions of dollars a day. One could say an hour, and you're going to try to sum up a spending bill in 3 sentences. I vote for it. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just saying I'm not sure you're ever going to get anywhere near that.
No, I'm saying every spending bill should be of such a manageable size that it should permit of a brief description. And if you have to vote on 100 bills instead of one, that doesn't bother me. I don't know why that should bother me.
Say they actually do their job and show up and vote. Oh my dear, what happens next? Government.
Oh, I know. God, can you imagine how much that would bother them? I mean, as it is, when they have to stay late and vote, 2 or 3 times a year, we hear the howls and whines of complaining. Like it's so inhumane that I had to leave for my vacation late. Oh my God, how can you people do this to me? And I'm a survivor of January 6th.
Right?
I'm gonna re-trigger my trauma.
My trauma has been re-triggered and triggered again. In fact, I'm starting to enjoy it.
Fucking Amy Klobuchar. I forget which of the Sunday shows she was on today, but they bring her on to talk about the LA riots, and it takes her, by the 3rd sentence, she is on January 6th. Because I don't want to talk about these riots that my side supports. I want to talk about that other riot that we didn't support. That was so very, 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 very bad. That was over 4 years ago. That nobody would remember if we didn't try to constantly hector them about reminders of it.
I can tell you this much: this riot has been mostly peaceful. There's only a few burning buildings in the background, and there is an impressive number of cops present, bro. Like, they deputized the universe on this one. Check this out. I mean,
yeah, let's have a look.
Do the thing. Everything's slow today, bro. So basically, they've been backed up twice. While we were doing our intro, homie, the guy running the camera here, Pedo Libre Audits, he actually had to back his way through some of the cops because he got
do it in a keffiyeh with a Palestine flag, because that's relevant right now.
It is absolutely relevant. Stop judging people based on...
Wait. Does he have a Palestine flag and a Mexico flag? Or is it one thing on one side and one on... God, go back to that guy, camera dude. I could have swore I saw Mexico and Palestine at the same time. And how great would that be? It's like Halloween. Just wear the woke leftist costume of your choice. Everyone's just as good as the other.
You are very correct. Apparently,
see, look at that.
Good catch, bro. Those are good eyes.
Thank you very much indeed, sir.
Wow. All right. You want to hold on, do it this way. You want me to point out one major difference between this type of activity and January 6th activity?
Yes.
On January 6th, I don't think I saw a single Mexican flag.
Nope.
Palestinian flag, for that matter.
Only saw American flags that day. You don't see any American flags at this day. You will find more American flags on the surface of the moon than you will find at the LA riots.
There's one. I think it's an American flag. It's got the stars. It don't seem to have enough stripes, but I can forgive that.
It might have been a Puerto Rico flag.
Oh, don't do me like that, bro.
Just a guess. I didn't get a very clear look at it.
I didn't either. But you're right. They do favor. Zephyr, welcome in, chick. Good to see you. Scotty Waddles, Pod Home Lighthouse.
Exactly right. People who care so much about their countries of origin should stay there and work toward their betterment. And how truer words were never spoken on this program.
Scotty Waddles gets the gold. Kissy May gets the silver. And Willie Hobo Ralph gets the bronze. Welcome in, brother. Appreciate each one of y'all.
Congratulations to our medalists. And thanks.
Right, we got Queen Bird in action over here. Kissy May's in the chat, of course. We got ATL Transparency News. Beak has joined the chat. That means we've made it. We're actually official podcasters, dude. Congratulations.
Boom. I love being official.
Right? Like, what else are we going to do with our time? Grim Ben, welcome in. Zephyr Boxel. Appreciate your time. Y'all could be out there watching riots on your own. Instead, you're here watching it with us. And so far, it's been fairly boring.
Yeah, I think they're all talking about how depressingly old Ron Paul is.
Yeah.
Come on, he's only 90. And he's looked exactly the same since he was 60. Guys like that live forever.
Him and Bob Barker, right?
Yes.
Two.
In fact, I'm not really convinced Bob Barker actually died.
Look, I have this nightmare that I have repetitively of Bob Barker scratching at the inside of his casket because he was actually a robot. Him and who's the other guy? Jerry Lewis that did all the Bing Crosby
telethon.
Yeah. I think they were all robots created by Disney.
You know who else? You know who else always looked old ever since he was young was Lloyd Bridges.
We got action.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, they're storming the Bastards.
Yeah, yeah, they're.
All right,
We're going in, boys.
Right. Well, they're clearing this. They're fixing to back them up another block, and so they're clearing all the overwalks and overpasses and tunnels and everything like that before.
I guess that isn't. No, that's a flag. That's an American flag on one side and a Mexico flag on the other. Not sure what message that's intended to convey. I'm not sure what. Yeah, that is the only possible message you could be attempting to send with the waving of Mexican flags. And doesn't that just prove the other side's narrative about an invasion completely and incontrovertibly correct? You are making the other guy's argument for them. If you cared about this country, if you gave one single damn about this country, you wouldn't be waving another country's flag at this protest you're at.
Oh no, Podhouse, they have snipers on rooftops. Homie's been pointing them out all afternoon, or at least spotters. But I don't see why you'd have a spotter without a rifle.
Oh, you wouldn't. Never.
Hashtag just saying though.
We got the horsey cops on the scene.
Oh, dude, they've got everything out. There was a group of Segway cops who came through earlier.
Fucking cavalry's here, bro.
Yeah, literally.
Literally. We don't get to say that very often. The actual cavalry is here. Good job, Los Angeles. Well done indeed.
Do you reckon Antifa knows anything about caltrops? I mean, it's just a question.
And I'm just going to let it hang in the air.
There's so many electric scooters and bikes involved in this. It's hilarious.
Yeah, those things are getting to be a real annoyance as far as I'm concerned. Those goddamn electric scooters.
I got no problem with electric scooters. First of all, I live in town. I live in one of those mythical 15-minute cities that they're talking about.
12-year-old kids riding them in the middle of the fucking street like they're street legal is my annoyance. Because I get a lot of that around here.
The problem we're having is the laws that are currently on the books don't really describe a scooter as they are currently. And so there's not a clear set of laws that apply directly to electric scooters because, it applies to bicycles, even electric bicycles, motorized cycles of all descriptions, all sorts of vehicles. But, you could probably drive a Segway anywhere because they couldn't define it in the litigation. No way.
And a lot of cities now have had to outright ban those scooter rentals in their. I know San Diego did just recently because they were just. I mean, in addition to the safety hazard and all the accidents they were causing, they were just being. They basically became like litter. Nobody ever returned them. They were just being dumped wherever, and that it was allowed to be tried in the first place as a business model seems like pretty awful governance in the first place. Like, you're not seeing all the downsides that could happen that are obviously going to happen if you allowed this business model to proceed, but nobody asked me.
Apparently, we have a little bit of activity taking place over here.
We do have a little bit of activity here, don't we?
I'm not exactly sure what the purpose of all of this is. It doesn't really seem to be chilling the crowd out at all, but then again, they don't seem to be too popped up. It's still early.
Well, and
yet.
still, this is it does appear. I don't want to say not generally unruly and sound like a fucking CNN reporter, but normally these weekend riots peter out to a large degree by Sunday night. But here we are Sunday night, and we've got the cavalry just arriving on the scene. We've still got all the riot cops in place. We've got National Guard. We've got Marines incoming. So you have to think there exists intelligence that tells them that something bigger and worse might be pretending. Don't you think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, earlier, when I was watching it, I was on a panel with some other guys, and they've been covering it all day, and actually the past couple of days. And I was talking to this one dude, and he's watching one live. I've got one play. I've got 6 playing over here from different streamers and whatnot. And I was sitting there watching, and 3 of the streamers I were watching within 45 seconds of each other were suddenly arrested. Like, poof, there were cops behind them, picked them up, carried them away, turned off their cameras. It was like, wow, that just happened. And I turned and looked at the other guys. I'm like, y'all might want to pay close attention because something just happened. And about that time, all of the cops just started funneling out of the woodwork. And now we're at this point.
It also says a lot for the credibility of your movement when you spray paint every single surface that's accessible to you. That's a very classy look.
It is, especially like the gang tag motif. I call it post-industrial brutalist.
Oh, that's good. I like that. That's because it is ugly for the sake of ugliness, which was the whole point of the brutalist school of architecture.
Right, and it's post-industrial because once they've showed up, it's generally a third world country. So that's where we're at, folks. Congratulations.
Yep, yeah, and I've been watching a lot of Rhodesia, South Africa stuff lately. So that's a point that hits home quite a bit right now because you can attain civilization and backslide out of it in a surprisingly small number of decades if you really work at it.
It takes time to attain civilization. It takes no time to break it.
Yep.
3 days without water, and it's over.
Oh yeah. That's yep. Yeah, you cut off the supply of any of the things that are integral to sustaining life, and yeah, you can wind up in anarchy in under 96 hours easily, if not less.
Imagine if you woke up tomorrow and your cell phone didn't work and it didn't come back on.
Oh my God, can you imagine the mental health crisis that would ensue from that?
You wouldn't hear anything about it because no one would be able to post it on Instagram without going to a landline.
People would be walking around staring at their little rectangles with just, please work, please, magic rectangle, please make sound and light again, please, magic rectangle.
We turned into a cargo cult in like 45 minutes.
we are the cult of the magic glowing rectangle. That's it.
There is none higher. There is none higher. One of us.
It's like we've talked about before. If you brought a person from even just 30 or 40 years in the past and brought them forward to today and asked them for their immediate impressions after just watching people for an hour or two, they would say, why the fuck is everybody always staring at a little glowing rectangle? It's weird and creepy. Why do you all do that?
I got nothing better to do.
Well, where else am I supposed to get my porn?
There's that too. Do not undersell that aspect. Most of the internet was invented primarily on the backs of porn.
Oh, I know. We should be the absolute smartest people in the history of the universe because we each walk around with the entire collected repository of human knowledge and understanding on a little glowing rectangle in our back pocket. And what do we use it for? We use it for gambling and porn and funny cat videos.
Funny cat. I was just to say, don't forget the cat videos, dude.
I didn't, did I?
YouTube was established for cat videos and travelogues.
Oh, I know. But YouTube, it came into existence to solve an actual problem that was bedeviling people in their lives. They wanted to share their home videos with other people, and they didn't really have any means of doing that online. And YouTube stepped in to fill that void. And look at what they are now. They're the most viewed website in internet history on a daily basis. And
does it not strike anyone as strange that every single person at this protest is filming? This seems odd to me, man. Like, how can you have a decent protest if you're live streaming every second of it?
I know those two things are mutually exclusive, I would submit. And they've still all got their little COVID masks on, don't they?
I don't think that has anything to do with COVID, bro. I mean, there's been tear gas popping off.
Of course not, but we call them COVID masks, or we could still call them face diapers if you prefer.
Oh, yeah, sure. I always called them moron masks, but let me tell you what. No, I'm not going to say that. We're on YouTube. Never mind.
So, do we know what our specific location here is in Los Angeles?
Oh, not anymore. He just walked like 5 blocks to a different area while we were doing the intro. I'm not sure where we're at anymore. I can't read the
because
signs.
we had an interesting development yesterday with the WWE pay-per-view, or the events that we used to call pay-per-views. I forget what they call them now, premium live events. But anyway, Money in the Bank was yesterday, and it was at the Clippers' new arena, the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. And when the show started, the arena was about 2/3 empty, and the internet starts thinking, "Oh my God, is WWE collapsing? They can't even." They've got a mostly empty venue for one of their main pay-per-view events, and it turns out that there was one of the LA riots going on in such close proximity to the arena that a lot of the ticketed customers actually couldn't get into the building until an hour or two after the event started.
Well, you get in the way of a redneck at his wrestling, and I doubt a riot will stop it. Riot will be the least of your problems, bro. You're going to get that atomic elbow. Oh, yeah.
What you gonna do, brother? 24-inch pythons are gonna run wild on you, Jack.
It's 24-inch pythons. I'd forgotten all about that. I don't appreciate being reminded. I could have lived the rest of my life without that information coming back. Okay, so what was there was another topic. What was the third topic? It was
D-Day.
D-Day. All right. So does anyone have a problem with him doing the D-Day spiel with this still playing? Is that going to be an issue, or do you want full screen?
Do I don't think I have a spiel. I think I kind of did the spiel during the roundup, but I mean, it's something we can talk about,
sure.
Obviously.
We can talk about how this crap that we're watching now is not equivalent to D-Day. You are not fighting Yahtzees. That is not what is happening.
This is not what those men fought for 81 years and 2 days ago. Not in any sense. Absolutely not. And this is really, I would submit,
LA will be the next big issue.
probably a first in American history, because like we were talking about backstage before the show started, I was reflecting back on the 92 LA riots, the Rodney King riots, and trying to imagine how much worse and how much more horrific that whole thing would have been if, at that time, the mayor of LA and the governor of California had basically looked at the rioters and said, well, yeah, go for it, buddy. This is all the federal government's fault. They're trying to incite violence. So we haven't even heard the mayor or the governor say, maybe don't set things on fire. Maybe
No.
don't hurl rocks at officers. No, we can't even get that much, because they would rather all of their constituents die horrible, fiery, miserable, agonizing deaths than ever be seen to be cooperating with President Donald Trump. That is where we are.
That is unfortunate, because government is supposed to govern, and I do not feel like this is governing. I feel like,
And no matter what fucking stupid party we are in, we should be able to agree at every stratum of governance that we have no higher priority than making sure that law-abiding citizens are safe and secure. And we can't even get that much from the local and state leaders here. And that tells you all you need to know about the current state of California, I think. You know, if we're going to paint with a broad brush. I live here and I don't like to paint with a broad brush, but sometimes maybe we should.
a broad brush is sometimes the only brush available. You can't judge California by LA, just like you can't judge Britain by London. You know, things have changed. They don't represent the Americanism of the old.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I often get annoyed when I hear people who don't live in California say things like, "Oh, the fuck California, they all deserve what they get. That's what they voted for." And I often come back with, you do realize there are more Trump voters in California than any other state, don't you? 6.2 million of them, in fact, and they didn't do anything to vote for this, but you wanna see them all suffer too, because that's a pretty sickening viewpoint to hold about your fellow countrymen.
Agreed.
I mean, even the bluest, most liberal city, even goddamn San Francisco, has thousands of conservatives in it, and they have the same right to safety and security and law and order as anybody else does in any other city. And I find it regrettable that so many people need that explained to them, because we're not in a good place when that's the reality. When so many people don't understand that, it just contributes to bifurcation and a dissolution ultimately of the things that hold us together culturally, which are things that we need. If we lose those, then you get balkanization in a pretty big fucking hurry.
Yeah, but this doesn't seem organic to me. It's
not.
This has quite a bit of scripting, apparently, or at least it appears to be scripted to me. You could have predicted this a year ago just by looking at the fact that the influx of migrants stopped, right? You would expect the people in the country to suddenly have an issue with being removed, and you could predict quite easily that at some point in time during the summer, we would have a brand new, shinier, even brighter, fierier, and more peaceful summer of love.
Yeah, and it would have been fairly easy to predict that LA would be the place it happened because
They're popping off.
Oh yeah, we are. How about that?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I wasn't saying anything important.
Old Joe.
Unless maybe I was, but who knows? It's gone now.
Oh, that's unfortunate. I killed that brain cell. Success.
Killed that brain cell. It's all your damn fault. It could have been the most profound thing anybody ever said.
Boy.
I wonder what instigated this escalation.
I don't know, but homie just did a flat run over here to come check it out.
So they're popping off tear gas and it's drifting down the street.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, somebody's bearing. There's a big group bearing down, isn't there? We might get some fireworks here pretty quick.
I see it. Oh wow, there's still traffic on this bird. That's wild.
I know. I'm surprised that traffic is still flowing. Yeah, there must be something on the way because we got the cavalry behind the infantry. That's not really how you set up your skirmish lines, but we can have a lesson on medieval warfare later.
Sure. Well, no, I kind of want to do it now because it feels.
Yeah, let's do it now. You don't put your cavalry behind your foot soldiers.
Or you're supposed to have a whole lot more foot soldiers and totally expect them to go down.
Yeah, you're supposed to hold your cavalry in reserve, and then when your foot soldiers are threatening to turn the tide, and the thing can be, the balance can be tipped in your favor, then you send the fucking cavalry in to overrun the sons of bitches.
Right. Well, I mean, and literally meaning running them over. That is what we're saying. I'm not saying
Jeb Stewart could tell you all about that.
Right.
Come to think of it, he was probably history's last great cavalry commander, wasn't he?
I guess so.
Because, I mean, there isn't really a war after our Civil War where cavalry is really any sort of decisive factor. So, yeah, I think he probably is.
I don't know. Cavalry was a decisive factor in World War I in that the units that utilized cavalry lost to tanks.
Oh, yeah. There was a lot of armies at the start of the Great War that thought they were still going to get by with lancers, like actual lancers, guys on horses with lances.
Lances. Yes, you're correct. Well, I find the concept of Reconquista quite disturbing and interesting. In that,
but you're correct in using the label because I think it's fitting. I think there's a certain portion of certainly all of the agitators that are engaged in this agitation believe that this is a Reconquista. Absolutely, they do.
So you remember a couple of months ago, it might be six months ago now. I covered this chick who tried to raise the Mexican flag at an American national park and got carried away by ICE.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I made a statement then that this is just the beginning. Like, this type of sentiment is not unknown in this community. They some of them firmly believe that California and a vast segment from Texas all the way west was stolen from them. And I'm not even necessarily saying they're wrong. I'm saying we got it. What you gonna do about it? Now you're seeing what they plan to do about it. I just don't think it's going to work out the way they hope.
Yeah, I would submit there's a difference between theft and conquest. Conquest is fair and square. We didn't instigate the Mexican-American War, but we won the damn thing and we benefited from it in the largest degree that we were able to, which is, what sane countries used to do. Did we want that land? Of course we wanted that land. And so we won a war and we took it.
Beautiful.
Because that's the way you do things.
Right? I mean, but at what point in time did the U.S. decide to become kingmaker instead of plundering? And is kingmaking a form of plundering?
And I know this is a point I've raised before, but really, in our entire history, the only instance of us invading and annexing a foreign country is when we went in and deposed the King of Hawaii in 1890, whatever that was. But all of the other territories that we've acquired were by conquest or purchase or treaty.
Right.
So it's difficult to call us, an imperial land grabber, because we really aren't.
I've been firmly of the opinion of manifest destiny too. For a minute, ever since this whole globalist concept started steamrolling over everything, I was like, okay, you want to play globalism? You ever played Risk Against America? It's not pretty.
And there was never anything wrong with the concept of manifest destiny, and I'm glad you brought it up, because we should work on destigmatizing that term, because it shouldn't be stigmatized. There is nothing wrong with the idea that the entire continent should be the United States, because what's the alternative? The alternative is some form of Central American balkanization, and we don't want that. Manifest destiny, the idea of manifest destiny existed for a reason, and it was a good reason, and we realized it, and there's a good reason that we realized it, and it worked out the way that we wanted it to. Would anybody's... Yeah, it's getting pretty wild. I should probably pay more attention to this. I think business has just picked up in the last couple minutes, hasn't it?
It has. There's been a few deliveries. Okay, so here's the issue I have. Would you agree that this is a fairly dangerous location to be?
Yeah, it's not a place I would be live streaming from right now. That's for goddamn sure.
Right. I mean, a capital B for the brass balls this dude has, but I'm not sure it's worth the views, bro. I'm sure he's making a mint off of it, but
I mean, probably so. We're here watching.
Damn right. But I don't want to repeat. This is the fourth channel I've had to go to find a continuous feed, because the first 3 or 4 got arrested a couple hours ago at about 2:15 their time.
Maybe that's why all those pride parades are getting canceled. Maybe all the money got diverted to this protest.
You reckon?
Well, because we know that much of the financial support for leftist activism comes from, maybe half a dozen main sources, if we're being honest. So
you're probably right.
Sometimes you have to economize and focus your resources where you need them at the moment. Sometimes you need an LA riot more than you need a Boise Pride parade, and you have to make hard choices. But in either event, you are doing everything you can to internally destabilize the society, and that's what matters.
Yeah, that is really what matters, and that's the entropy we're actively working against with stuff like this. And that's what it is. Entropy is. It's hyper balkanization. It is a speed run towards various forms of socialism in different areas of the United States. I like states' rights, but those things should definitely have limits. And I like the idea of a strong federal government, and those things should definitely have limits.
Yes. And also, the 10th Amendment is not a one-way street. And I think that's the best thing we can keep in mind when balancing states' rights with the federal supremacy clause, because it's a difficult balancing act. We've been working on it for 250 years. We're never going to perfect it, because it can't be perfected. Democracy is unperfectible. You're just you're never going to get it exactly right. You do the best you can. You understand that you have tensions between different strata of authority, and you have courts, hopefully, that are filled with honest jurists who are objective and capable to whatever extent you can count on that. We used to be able to count on it more than before than we can now, and that's a complicating factor too, because the tensions between different strata of authority, somebody has to settle that stuff, and it really has to be the judiciary, and unless you want to have open gun battles in the streets, and you really need an honest judiciary to make the thing work.
Yeah, and it should be balanced, and that's what has been subverted in the past dozen years, is the sense of balance between one side and the other. Much like online, where a lot of your right-wing spaces have been basically gate-kept into non-existence.
Oh yeah.
It's sort of the same thing in like the brick and mortar spaces too. That sort of concept of freedom, the idea of self-destiny and self-perpetuation, that kind of stuff has just been sort of ground under the heel of conform.
Yes. And there's, it seems like each year there's a longer list of, well, let's see if we can get conformity on this. Let's see if we can get conformity on this. Let's see if we can get conformity on this. The most depressing example of that, obviously, was the year 2020, when they probably couldn't believe all the things they were able to talk people into. I think if Tony Fauci had told people to walk around with their underwear on their head, 100 million people would have done it. I was really disabused of a lot of notions that I used to harbor about Americans being generally a sensible people. That year put a lot of that thinking out of my mind, probably permanently, which is too bad.
Yeah, I know it's PLA, bro, but this is Pedo Libre. What's the name of the Pedo Libre audits? That's the PLA he's referring to, although People's Liberation Army might be fitting. I don't know.
And the Chinese Navy is the People's Liberation Army Navy.
Yeah, which makes them a
They
plan.
named their Navy after an American football game.
I'm wondering what species of potato this guy's using for his camera.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean,
The
it's
image
gotten
doesn't.
way bad.
Yeah, the image doesn't seem to be improving. Looks like people are leaving. Did things calm down? Did the tear gas do the trick?
Well, the cops have passed this location, and they're in the area of the little roundup section behind the cops now.
Oh, okay. So they're doing one of those things where they funnel all the troublemakers into a central intersection, and then kind of round them up.
Right, and apparently this guy's at least well known enough that they just didn't with him. They're pretty sure those are cops or possibly pandas.
Yeah, I haven't even seen it. I haven't even seen anybody interact with him. It's kind of surprising.
I might have to try.
He might as well just be a floating camera.
I don't know. I can't really see anything. It's gotten so bad.
Yeah, it's getting pretty jumpy and pixely.
Yeah. Although he was right in the middle of the spit just a little while ago.
Well, I wonder how invested the financiers of this thing are going to be in continuing to escalate it, because we know we've got BORTAC on the scene, we've got Marines incoming, we've got National Guard already there. I mean, how far is the other side willing to go with this? I wonder. Are they gonna? Because, like I said, normally these things last for the weekend and then die down. It seems like they're trying to. I don't know how half-heartedly they're trying to keep this one going, but I guess the next couple of days will be interesting to observe, and of course, if the mayor,
it seems fairly wholehearted.
Oh, here we go! Wow,
right?
Fiery but mostly peaceful, ladies and gentlemen.
You remember the smoke column that we saw a little while ago over in the distance? I'm pretty sure this is it.
Yep, probably so.
Let's see what else I can do. I'm gonna keep that
Because
one on the
when all
list,
else
though.
fails, just set a car on fire.
I'm of the opinion that when Prometheus gets invited to a protest, it's no longer a protest. What's up, Jay Rillo? Welcome in. What did I
You're
come up
absolutely
short?
right, my friend.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Queenbird's all over it. I'm actually waiting for the pallets of brick to magically appear on random corners that are conveniently in the zone, because that always inevitably something like that seems to happen, right? It is such an uncanny coincidence. You know, not to mention the fact that when we have coordinated riots in different parts of the country, and everybody in all the places is waving the same signs that
Right.
obviously were produced in the same place. I mean, yeah, that's exactly what a grassroots protest looks like, boys and girls.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're going to have all pre-made signs, why would you bother with the grassroots application? But don't we
Yeah,
call that
I mean,
AstroTurf?
say again.
Don't we call that AstroTurf nowadays?
We do, and it might actually wind up getting like post-Orwellian. We might need a new adjective, because AstroTurf no longer goes far enough, because so much of what we see is straight up AstroTurf.
Right?
You know, political science fiction, basically.
Yeah.
It's not like, I guarantee you there are not that many residents of Los Angeles who are that offended about criminal illegal aliens being deported. I guarantee you that's not really the case.
This is just wild. Just
And
I sent Jay
people in
the-
people in masks holding up magic rectangles. That's
Yep. That's the most
you know.
part of all this to me. It's not the protesters that boggle me. Feel free to go protest. That's fine. It's the number of people who claim journalism status because they're holding a cell phone.
Yes. I am holding up my rectangle, therefore I am a citizen journalist. This is
Something
my
about
my iPhone is my press pass, damn you.
I'm not adverse to this concept. I'm just saying, like, I don't know, dude.
No, of course not. I mean, we wouldn't need this concept if we still had a functioning press, but we don't. So the concept has to exist. You know, the concept of the independent citizen journalist, as imperfect as the concept is, you know, you're going to get better information there, generally speaking, than you do from the corporate fake news sludge mongers.
So look,
What's
Jay,
good,
welcome to the
Boss?
show.
Curmudgeon. Thank you for having
Hello,
me
Jay.
on.
Good to see you.
It's been a while. Likewise, I felt compelled to be on tonight. Apologies for being so tardy and being so late, and for not being around for as long as I normally would be. But you know, this was a really special occasion, and I did truly feel, yes, feeling compelled to come on tonight, especially for this topic, because you know what, man, I've been very vocal about this now, at least since today, since the very start, since I've seen this protest. And I'm gonna tell you right now, regardless, love it or hate the opinion or not, big shout out to everybody out in LA right now, and shout out to everybody in chat, by the way. You know, long time no see. I hope you missed me. I missed you too. Shout out to everybody in chat, and shout out to everybody in LA right now who is showing out and making some noise for their cause. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, there comes a point where you reach a certain threshold when you are demonized so much for simply existing and for wanting to have a better life for yourself, and for not only a better life for yourself, but also a better life for your family and for those you love, that you want to just be in an area, you want to be in a place that is better for you, for those that you love, and not only that, but also better for future generations, for your family. So I'm not one to sit here and want to defend and to support any kind of destruction or to support any kind of breaking of the law. What I will say though is I do understand when you do end up having that social anxiety and that social discohesion when you get to this point. When you get to this point where you say enough is fucking enough and you are no longer want to deal with the bullshit and you're tired of being demonized simply for wanting to exist somewhere that you know is better for you. And that's where I see it. And that's how I see it. And when you have people who have been in an area, not only culturally, but physically for centuries, and they end up getting displaced and they want to live back in an area where they have been at for quite a long time. Their families have been there. They want to be able to reconnect with their families. They want to be in an area. They want to live somewhere that they want to live at. I don't blame them for having this kind of response. I don't blame them, especially, let's not even take the historical aspect out of it. Let's just think about if you're somebody who's been in an area, you live somewhere for decades. You and your family have been there for decades. You're a pillar of your community. You have children there, grandchildren there. You've worked there. You've helped others. You feel like you believe that you should live in somewhere that you've been at for a long time, right? You've been there for a long time, even if the quote unquote law of the land says you shouldn't have, even if the law is ambiguous or it's not enforced and you've been there for a long time, you would believe that you should be able to live there. You have family there, you have friends there, you have ties there, you have roots there. Why shouldn't you be allowed to? Why should someone be allowed to just uproot you just because they want to? Oh, because it's the law. Well, it's the law. Well, you know what? The laws do change. Not all laws are the same. Some laws are bullshit. We agree that some laws are bullshit. And I don't believe that you should just break the law just because. In fact, not only on my platform, but on many other platforms, and in fact, today I've reiterated this multiple times. I don't believe that you should be allowed to break the law just because you can. I don't believe you should break the law at any point. I don't believe that laws should be broken just because you feel like you should break them. I'm not going to sit here and say I support people coming over here illegally just because they can or just because they feel like it. Of course not. I've always stated this beforehand. I've been consistent with this point that if you are here illegally, you have to either leave or you have to find a way to stay here illegally. At the same time, I will also admit this. I'm not going to sit here and say that people should be separated from their families, from their roots, from the places that they live at, just because someone comes in here and says, well, fuck you, you shouldn't be here, you need to leave because we don't want you here for XYZ reasons. I'm not going to sit here and say that. A lot of people may say that I'm a hypocrite for this. A lot of people may say, "Oh, well, you're being overly emotional about something." Well, you know what though? Maybe I am. Maybe I'm having my selective outrage moment. Maybe I am. Call me what you want, but I will say this: I understand why they feel this way. I understand why they're acting out. I understand why they're showing out the way that they are, because we had a lot of criticisms for people back in 2020 who decided to show out and burn a lot of shit actually worldwide for a fucking crackhead. But now because people are being taken out of where they live at and being shipped back from someplace that they have lived at now for decades and have made roots and have families with, that they want to show out and say, no, to hell with this. This is wrong. This is happening. I'm not going to sit here and be quiet about it. Other people weren't quiet about it. They weren't quiet about their shit, whether people agree with it or not. So I'm not going to be quiet about it. I'm not going to sit here and not say shit about it. This is what happens when people feel fucked over and they feel that there's an injustice for people that want to live here. I'm not saying fuck America. Of course not. I live here. All I know is this. All my family knows is this. All that we know. This is all I know is this country. I'm also not going to sit here and say that other people who want to be here and have ancestral ties to this land and have decades being here and contribute to it and want to give to it don't deserve to be here. Fuck that. And fuck you if you don't agree with me. If you don't like me, I don't give a fuck. But I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to sit here and be quiet about this shit. If they feel that they have a right to be here and they're willing to fight for it, let them fucking fight for it. Let them have the right to have it. Because I'll be goddamned if I sit here and I don't say shit about that.
Nice. Dude, I really wish I knew.
Nothing against y'all. Give me 1 second. Nothing against y'all. If y'all feel it differently, if you don't believe differently, that's fine. You have every right to. I'm not going to sit here and hate you for it, because there's other people who I'm really cool with that I've had this conversation with all day long. I've been on the same code all day long. People who I don't even fuck with anymore, we already had our disagreements about it. I don't fuck with them. I'm not going to go over to their channel and become content for them. But I'll tell you right now, I'm going to stand on my business. I'm going to stand on what I believe in and say this shit. If this is what it takes, so that way people can feel like they can be here and live normally, fine. I understand there are laws, and they probably should have done things better they should have done things a smarter and more intelligent way, so that way they weren't breaking laws, so they could just live here. They should have done that, because I do believe we are a nation of laws. At the same time, I also believe that when people keep on trying to dehumanize you like you are a problem for existing somewhere and you still contribute, I understand this response, and I'm not going to sit here and demonize this response. I am not. Fuck you if you want to disagree with me. I'm here for the smoke.
I like smoke. Cap? Yeah, I didn't see that.
I heard you say a couple times that you understand that we're a nation of laws and the rule of law exists. But I also heard you say earlier on, you used the term the so-called law of the land. I'd be interested to know what you meant by that.
So, what I mean by that is this: is that the law of the land changes, of course, based on the context of the situation, right? The law of the land, at least in a historical sense, used to be that, well, if you lived somewhere, you would eventually become a citizen because you just lived there. I forget who it was. Oh God, I remember the case. I wish Juan was here because he would be able to better articulate it. He knows what the case was called. This was back in the late 19th century. There was a family here. They lived in, I want to say they lived in California, or they lived in Arizona maybe. And they were a Chinese family, and they were trying to determine where this child's loyalty lied, right? Where their loyalty would lie because of their parents. Their parents were born in China, but the child was born here, and they had to determine where this child's loyalty would lie, right? And ultimately, the government of the United States determined that this child was a United States citizen because their loyalty lied here. Well, they determined that, right? That was the so-called law of the land at the time. The law determined that child was supposed to be here because they were born here. But if we look at this situation here, there are a lot of people who have been in this land for a very long time, where they may not have been born here, but they have lots of people. They have lots of family that were born here, and lots of cultural ties that tie them to this land. And
an unlawful act doesn't become lawful just because it was done a long time ago.
I didn't interrupt you, sir. Did I interrupt you when you were talking, or did I let you speak? Did you have a chance to speak uninterrupted, or didn't you?
Jesus
we have
Christ,
8 minutes left, brother.
You know what? Fuck it. Go ahead. Go ahead, Cap. Go ahead.
I'm fine. I'm not here to do shit like this.
This comes out of left field for me too. I didn't expect that at all.
You know what though? You're right. I'm sure you didn't. I didn't expect a lot of shit today. I didn't expect a lot of shit from a lot of different people until I started talking with them, and then all of a sudden we had a lot of colors. We had a lot of colors be shown today. I will tell you this: we had a lot of true colors be shown today, and I'm here for it, man. I'm here for it. I'm here for the smoke.
So you're here bitching us out because you got bitched out by somebody else earlier in the day?
I'm not here to bitch you out, motherfucker. I came here to say what I needed to say.
Get rid of this fucking guy. I'm done with this guy. Get rid of him. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, that was surprising and disappointing.
I didn't expect that. It was.
I was willing to let it go up to a certain point, but yeah, fuck that. That guy will not be back.
All right, you heard it here first. News at 11, I suppose. So where are we at this point? Not sure where to go from now.
Where are we on our? It looks like we've got some fire. Oh, look at this! Is this the same burning cars we were looking at before?
Yeah, they've just burned farther down.
Because you're living in a classy first world country when the firefighters don't even show up to put the car fires out. That's you're living in a first class city then.
Bro, they've burned down to nothing. Like,
I know. This is fucking Somalia shit right here in the United States of America. So I hope the mayor and the governor are quite proud.
I'm almost rendered speechless by this. And we're just going to wander around.
Does anybody look at this scene and their chest swells with pride as an American? I mean, you call this legitimate protest? I mean, really? Because that's still the official party line from the mayor, isn't it? And the governor too. Probably the county board of supervisors. Probably every virtue signaler and every stratum of government thinks this is just great. And God, what a scene to behold.
I mean, this is a major metropolitan city in America.
This is the
And
second biggest city in the United States. This is the capital of the West Coast. Nobody
Didn't this
asked me
happen-
to vote on that, but
I mean, didn't this happen in France a week ago? Something similar?
yeah, and that was even better because that was over a fucking soccer game. Well,
Oh, yeah.
allegedly.
Makes sense. Wait, was there something else? Did I miss something?
Well, I mean, if you were a more conspiratorially minded person, then you might say that the social unrest was timed to coincide with the big soccer match because, obviously you're going to have more news crews on the scene to cover your riot and blast out your doings to the wider world. So, it wouldn't be the first time that ever happened, I don't think, that a riot was timed to coincide with a big sporting event to maximize its exposure.
Just saying hi to folks in chat. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. If you want the biggest coverage, you do it during a simultaneous event that will already have that coverage.
Right.
I'm not terribly interested in being involved in this level of activity. I'm perfectly happy just to kind of report on it on its surface. This is not the kind of thing I would like to see happen in every major metropolitan area, right? Like, can we vote against that or something? I don't know.
Yeah, and you know why? Because normal law-abiding people have the right to get up and go to work and live their lives every day, and not be inconvenienced by fucking douchebag protesters doing their douchebag protesting about whatever their douchebag complaint is today. That's why we value law and order, because we value the rights of the law-abiding citizen who doesn't want to bother anybody, who just wants to not be bothered in return. He deserves to not live in a city like this that is a third world dystopian hellscape.
I don't have an issue with protests, but I'm a firm believer that as soon as Prometheus shows up to a protest, it's no longer a protest.
Once things start getting destroyed and defaced and people start getting harmed, it is no longer a protest, it is a riot.
Agreed. And with that statement, I kind of paint myself into a corner of not really being able to approve of any of the more extreme levels of political activism, Once you start breaking the law to achieve your activism, you're no longer an activist, and you are now what? A subversive.
And what you'll never hear from any of these people, crucially, is any specific complaint about federal government policy, because they don't want to make specific complaints. Because, again, if we had a functioning press, the number one question you would ask any of these people is, which illegal aliens are you willing to deport? And then you've painted them into the corner already, because they want zero illegal aliens deported. They just don't want to come out and say that, because if they are put in a position where they have to come out and say that, then their entire position is discredited. Because sometimes they try to argue that, well, if you come here and do crimes and stuff, then yeah, usually, but nobody ever pins them down and says, which illegal aliens are you willing to deport? Tell me now. And you won't get a specific answer, because they blows up the entire back end of the Great Replacement project if they allow themselves to be pinned down like that. The front end of the project is get as many illegals into the country as possible. The back end of the project is make it impossible to remove them. And we're living in the middle of the back end of the project right now.
Right. This whole thing has just more or less left me incapable of explaining it. The Reconquista. That's it. That's what you're seeing. The idea that you can culturally annex a segment of America and claim it for oneself. I find that a bit.
Yeah, and the origin of that term, Reconquista, obviously refers to the Muslim conquest of Spain, which how long did that last? 400 or 500 years? The entirety of Spain was Muslim, and that got reconquested by the Christians in the 13th, 14th century. I'm a little bit imperfect on my Spanish history dates, but it was somewhere around there. And yeah, even for half a millennium, something like that can go on and still be reconquested. Obviously, that was sort of a different thing because there were, the Muslim conquest was a sort of much bloodier and more forceful affair, generally speaking, than anything that happened on this continent in the last 150 years. But the point still stands. And the point still stands that there are many people participating in this stuff who believe this situation is comparable to something like that one. And I guess that's wherein the danger lies.
Yeah, and we're at about that time.
Give me the screen and I'll do the thing. Thanks very much, my good man. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us here on the Blast Radius this evening. We sure do enjoy it when you spend a little part of your Sunday evening with us and watch the second largest city in the country lovingly burned down in a fiery but mostly peaceful shower of flames. We hope you have a good week, a pleasant tomorrow, and an edifying day after that. We will see you back here next Sunday. Be safe. Don't burn anything down. See you next time. Do not comply. Get off my lawn.